What is strategy and how can you create one with a simple 3-step formula? Now, there's a lot of garbage out there about business strategy, like what it can do for a company and what it actually can't achieve. As IT department head and chief digital officer, I was in charge of creating a digitalization strategy for a whole branch of the government. One that actually drove progress fast and didn't need to be debated for 10 years first. I used the same thinking big players like Apple, Tesla, or Netflix applied to become successful. So today I'm going to show you the exact 3-step formula and how I apply this concept to my solo business today. This here is not strategy, neither is this or that. What Simon Sinek wrote about is a mindset that can be super helpful to develop a strategy. And the same goes for this. Becoming an influential person in your niche is an outcome that is tied to a well-executed strategy. It's what happens after strategy. And saying things like this, well, honestly, that's just plain stupid if you want to run a solo business and not burn out in the process. The official definition goes like this. A business strategy is the roadmap that defines how a company will compete in the marketplace, attract customers, and make profit. So in other words, a strategy has to answer a few questions like, what products or services will we offer? Who are the people we're selling to? And how will we make money and grow? And that's just for starters. But just like that, we're getting into that dangerous territory where most business owners give up because they now have to think about vision and goals, target market, value propositions, what competitive advantage they have, and how to allocate resources like time, money, and tech to actually be strategic at the end of the day. And that's difficult stuff. It's also the reason why so many businesses fail miserably at crafting a clear strategy. They end up doing something like this. They have two customers, one who likes a white product and one who likes a black product. So what they end up doing is more like this. They either try to sell gray or they sell all colors except black and white. And the customers then go and say, what the hell? I don't like gray or eggshell. Meaning the business ends up not serving any customer well. We all know from personal experience, acting like that is a bad idea. If we split our focus like this, we immediately realize that we're less productive than if we would focus our energy in one direction. And the same concept applies to business strategy. There comes a point where we have to make a choice about what we're going to pursue and what we're not going to pursue. Where strategy really shines is when everything that happens downstream ties back into it. So if the tiniest action we take on a day-to-day basis somehow connects back to the big picture strategy, that's really the dream. Unfortunately, what happens way too often is that business owners never really dial in their strategy completely. And that can be because they never think about all of this in the first place. Maybe they have a strong case of shiny object syndrome, or they simply want to keep, well, their options open, which is a fancy way of saying, I'm not committing. What they end up with are multiple strategies they have to allocate resources like time, money, and tech to. And none of these strategies ever gets fully implemented. To stop that from happening to your business, we need to talk about how to get fundamental business strategy right with a simple 3-step formula. And there's really no need to overcomplicate any of this, Despite the fact that strategy is a fundamental component of a business, it doesn't have to be complex. Actually, it should be as simple as possible to avoid confusion and make it a real-life thing that can be applied every single day. Not something that reads well on the about page of a website. Apple, Tesla, Netflix, and other big players use this exact same 3-step formula we're discussing to become super successful. Before we get into this though, let me know if this video is helpful to you by subscribing to the channel. It helps me understand if I talk about the things that move you in the right direction and you want to hear more of it. It also helps YouTube show this content to other people who might benefit from it. So please consider subscribing if you haven't done so. I really appreciate that. Now, if you want to craft a killer strategy for your business and do it the easy way, all you need to do is ask yourself three questions really. Where do you compete? How will you win? And what will you do to deliver? That's all there is to it, really. We could make this a lot more complex, of course, by going with a 5-part framework, let's say, like the one that gets taught in MBA programs. The questions here would be, what is your winning aspiration? Where will you play? How will you win? What capabilities must be in place? And what management systems are required? But all this does really is add complexity to something that needs to be as simple as possible, especially when you're starting out. So let's stick with the 3-step framework for now, or the formula. Where do you compete? This is intended to clarify things like your target customers, your market, and your geography. So if you were interested in opening a coffee business, the answer could be, I will focus on young professionals in downtown Chicago who want high quality coffee quickly. Young professionals being your target audience or your target customers, your market being coffee, and your geography being downtown Chicago. Step 2 is then to ask, how will you win? This goes into the topic of your unique advantage or differentiation. How are you going to be different than other businesses doing the same thing? The coffee business owner could say, I will win by offering premium coffee with very fast service through mobile offering. And the final question is, what will you do to deliver? Here, the focus is on key capabilities and actions you intend to take. To achieve this, we will invest in mobile apps and premium coffee sourcing. As IT department head for the government, I laid out the specific IT strategy like this. We will focus on 4 departments that handle the bulk of citizen services. We will win by providing these departments with modern IT tools and training. To achieve this, we'll invest in up-to-date hardware and software that is highly standardized, user-friendly, and industry-tested. I clarified where we compete. In this case, the 4 departments of the government branch that were heavily focused on customer service, which at that point was still being handled in paper mostly. I defined how we win by providing modern IT tools and training to the employees who had to use the tools. And I specified what we delivered. Buying hardware and software that is standardized, user-friendly, and industry-tested. The last part being the most important one here, because the government had a knack for developing their own software solutions that either never worked or they were just a mess from a user perspective. So I pushed a lot for software that came from industry or at least had been tested there. Anyway, I digress now. Here are strategy statements from the big players I mentioned before. For example, Apple states, create beautifully designed, easy to use premium devices, tightly integrated with our software and services. Now they compete in the consumer tech device market globally. They win with design and ecosystem integration, and their advantage is offering a premium user experience, which some people agree with and others don't, of course. The big advantage with this 3-step formula is that it keeps your strategy clear and short, so you can remember it easily without having to read your business plan every single time. And it forces you to make real choices, like buying a specific software or whatever you need. And that ties into what I mentioned before. The ideal strategy has a real-life impact on a day-to-day basis and with the actions you take, like purchasing decisions that become perfectly clear because they tie back into the big picture strategy. The bottom line is, if you want to create a solid strategy for your business, the 3-step formula will help you do exactly that. Where will you compete? How will you win? And what will you do to deliver? 3 questions that will put you and your business ahead of other business owners and other businesses who fail to articulate this properly. And if you want to get deeper into taking your business from idea to profit fast, watch one of these videos next. I publish content twice a week at this point, and I cover topics like business systems, the mindset solo business owners need, and strategy, of course. So I see you in the next video.